What's up? I'm trying to get my energy up because it's casual day and we need a level of energy. There's a level of energy needed.
Can you move off to the side over there to the left so I can say my thing?
What do you mean move to the side? What are you asking
Move
for?
over to the side there, right there.
What?
What's up, squishes? Yo, it's about time you got here.
So. For everybody to know what's up fully, I want to mention that we live read this section on Patreon from the back of an RV. How do we talk about the reverie? Where do we start?
I don't know if you know this, but it starts at 9:03. The very beginning of it, going through the Sanji finding the little thing from his dick brother inside of his jeans and Luffy and Chopper losing their shit. That was whatever. It was kind of cute. But what really mattered is that we got to see Zeus was so happy being close to Nami inside of the baton, and Zeus is just eating it up good inside that baton. And I think that what is also very, very good about that is a fight between a cloud and a man to see who could be the best servant. Really an odd thing to brag about. Let me be clear, I was her servant first.
Sanji is in the weird place of being very proud of how hard he can simp. And you know what? Go for it, my guy.
Discounting the bullshit moment that I think that Oda did Sanji so dirty in Thriller Bark. Discounting that, I'm like a massive Sanji stan.
Okay, we're Team Sanji in this house.
You tried to divide our houses.
Don't let the Zoro fans hear you. They'll point out that Zoro could beat Sanji in a fight.
Why do we need to fight each other all the time?
Because it's the one argument Zoro fans have. Oh.
Let's just sit the shit down and eat. Who's cooking?
Sounds like a Sanji fan to me, TBH. Sit down and share a meal.
Let's just share a meal. Who's making that meal? Oh, that's right, it's Sanji.
Goku would win, exactly.
I love the fight between them. I just don't find any need. I think that it's hilarious to watch Sanji be so ridiculously
That is actually true. I forgot that the Zoro fan base has one other argument these days, which is his tits. That's become another selling point for Team Zoro.
They're not wrong about his tits. Zoro wields 3 swords, 2 boobies, and 1 brain cell. Oh, I still love Zoro, guys.
The Zoro-Sanji rivalry I do find genuinely funny because while this is reductive and there are lots of Zoro fans who have character-driven reasons he's their favorite Straw Hat, I will so often see Sanji fans talk about the characteristics they like in his character as a person, and Zoro fans be like, Zoro would kick his ass. And it's not most Zoro fans, but it's enough that it happens, and I find it very funny.
I felt really bad for Sanji that he was exposed as a Vinsmoke on his poster. Can you imagine? You try to avoid the fact that you are in the family, and then it is the thing that is like right out in the entire world for everyone to see. The crushingness. But I'm glad he went up to 300 million berries because I felt pretty shit for him. And more importantly, right now he is winning in the Zoro versus Sanji.
He has the higher bounty for the first time in his career. The thing I love that I've seen pointed out that is great about Sanji is every time there's a bounty reveal, he's disappointed.
Oh, I want you to delete your art.
Oh, okay. I'll figure out a new way to go about this.
Can you make the emu taller, please?
First bounty reveal, Luffy's the only one with a bounty. Second bounty reveal, he's disappointed because Zoro gets a bounty and he doesn't. Then he gets one that is hand-drawn. Then he continues to be below Zoro. Now he gets his real name. So every time there's a bounty reveal, there has to be a reason for Sanji to be disappointed.
I'm super happy for Sanji right now, even if he doesn't see the happiness himself. And I like the moment when Luffy thinks that his bounty goes down to 150 million. When I was reading it, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And in my head, I was like, it must have gotten out.
I had the same thing on my first reading. I kept being like, they're misunderstanding something. Is it a 1.5 billion? But then I kept being confused. And then when it happened at the end, I was like, okay, good.
Thank God, because this is ridiculous. And watching all of them come out and having Wimpy Hoshi, who's my fave, decide that she's going to go to Reverie so she isn't called Wimpy Hoshi by Luffy was so sweet. She's so little. She's so young as a human. Her personality is young.
She's a very sheltered upbringing.
Yeah, so I just love her as being trying to live up to Luffy as a big brother type thing, who's saying to her don't be embarrassing. So her going up was incredible, but for me, one of the most incredible things is, once again, he does it again. He travels the world just updating us on how everyone is doing and where everyone is by showing us people looking at either a bounty or an article or whatever to find out that I got not 1, people, but 2 diamond stars in this while we were reading out loud. So news bugged around the entire world. Luffy wins, and then it goes, who dared to confront the Emperor of the Sea, whose supremacy has gone unchallenged? challenge for decades. The newspaper stated that according to reliable sources, Straw Hat Luffy already had 7 powerful pirate crews under his sway, combining the authority of a captain with over 5,000 followers, the notoriety of a brotherhood with both Ace and the number 2 of the Revolutionary Sabo, the extreme charisma and leadership to assume impromptu command for a formidable trio of an army of evil Germa 66, the Sun Pirates and Fire Tank Pirates, the calculated strategic brilliance to execute the destruction of the Queen's castle, and to strengthen defeat the officers worth 80 million and 1 billion berry. The result of this incident was clear that all Straw Hat Luffy was victorious. It was the arrival of a 5th Emperor of the Sea. I was like, shut up. Strategic brilliance was maybe pushing it. Like, I really like the idea of them calling what Luffy does strategic brilliance, but come on today with the 5th Emperor of the Sea. So that is my first amazing diamond star, because I predicted that Luffy would be a 5th thing.
When you thought there was 4 things, you thought he'd be both part of them and be a 5th thing, which is crazy. Yeah, Beshi gets no credits at all. Gold star for Dofi prediction? Oh, what was the Dofi prediction? Oh, him being in jail? Okay.
Excellent.
Gold star for you.
I like the extreme charisma and leadership to assume impromptu command over a formidable trio. That's a really important part. We just spent the last how many freaking arcs talking about leadership and seeing it from a bunch of different perspectives. So for it to be recognized in its own little square, the extreme charisma and leadership to assume impromptu command over a formidable trio, that one is deserved. And that kind of highlights the most impressive thing about Luffy is impromptu command. That's the shit that he's dealing out across the world. Everywhere he goes, people want to know if they can be impromptu commanded by him.
I like it. It's a great acknowledgement of what he has, even if it's a little bit of an embellishment in a lot of ways.
A lot of it is glazing, but like on the other hand, some of it is very true. So I did love the part where they talked about his leadership. That part was really awesome because Oda made a really great point when he made this little blurb that he has extreme charisma and leadership. But the most important thing that he did is he put out there impromptu command. And I think that that is something that I want to pay more attention to because we talk about it, but we don't talk about it in that simple wording, impromptu command. And he does that wherever he goes. And part of the command that he does is he is forcing people to take part in their own freedom and in their own future. And he does it in a commanding, thoughtful way. That's pretty impressive considering how truly chaotic he is. I started to wonder too about you, Drock, because you're kind of a chaotic human being.
Maybe.
And you've always said that probably since you were 15, 16, that you embrace chaos and you think chaos is a great way to make change and keep your life more interesting. Mm-hmm. And I started to wonder about how much of your chaotic feelings kind of came from One Piece, if it had influence over...
Definitely it was a thing that I liked before One Piece, but I think it's why Luffy appeals to me so deeply as a character.
Yeah, I started to think like that there was feedback loop inside of Luffy's chaos.
Oh, definitely that.
Yeah. Anyway, I also love the idea that he was the 5th emperor, but right away I was like, oh no, we have stretched our arm too far. And I think it was a little too quick to do that. And I don't think that Luffy is in quite the position to do it. Later on, the bitch of a man completely agreed with me and said like, yeah, no, you've gone too far. And I was like, he has gone too far. I feel pretty uncomfortable about it for him. I mean, if he embraces his armada a little heavy, maybe he could do better. And I'm hoping that maybe there is more armada talk in Wano because wow, that's a emperor. Like, look at the people who are emperors.
Yep.
That feels like a lot for a Straw Hat crew.
I mean, he's conquering islands. He has a grand fleet that is operating in his name. Even the grand fleet who were at the Reverie are like, yeah, this is my last job. And then we're going to be open pirates after this. So like he has a global presence in the world. Just also...
I don't disagree.
Goddamn.
I just think he doesn't have the organization or the ability to use his people yet. Mm-hmm. So I think this is going to be a really interesting time. Love how the underwater pirates are thwarted so that we can see the hockey that has happened to our boy, because Coby is like, what is Coby's hockey? Like, why is he able to see things ahead a little bit? Because it feels like
observation's always been his specialty, right?
I agree, but to the point that he's seeing ahead a little more than usual.
Future sight Coby.
His future sight is a bit future sighted. It's a little over future sight.
Okay.
Well, think about it. Think about how far in advance both the Mochi and the Luffy got. And Coby is predicting ahead of time where things are going to go off to the point that how Meppo was like, how is your color of observation so good though? I never even sensed a thing, Coby. And Coby is already there turning up the weapons and exploding them above. Like that's a dastardly amount of future sight.
It's tough to say because like it could be future sight. It could just be like observation hockey for feeling the intent of the people shooting the missiles.
Yeah.
Because if he got their intent, he could predict where it's going without future sighting.
No, even Helmeppo thinks he future sighted. Helmeppo, and I think you're wrong. Helmeppo, by the way, looking good.
Stand By is one of the best glow ups in the series because of how low the bar was.
I mean, yeah, the bar was pretty low, if we're going to be honest.
He is glowed up. The YouTuber Grand Line Review, a point of agreement I have with him is Helmeppo is one of the great triumphs of Oda's writing, because how do you take a character that shit and make us love him and root for him and see him grow and get excited for him? It's incredible.
We only saw him on title pages for the longest time.
Yep.
He managed to create such a dimensional character and make us give a shit while not seeing him almost ever.
Yep. I love Helmeppo's arc. I love his design after his glow up. I think he's great. I also think like there's something cool about the fact that him and his dad had these very different ways of leaning into the awkwardness of their genetics, and Helmeppo doesn't feel like he needs to masculinize himself and hide who he is. He just kind of embraces and leans into it.
I'm kind of liking Helmeppo. But you know what I like even more? I like that they could tell that Coby was a massive Luffy fan, and they were like, we won't tell anyone. Would you like to read it? And then he's just like, oh man, Luffy is just so dang cool. He just keeps going further and further. Every time I read an article about you, I think back to that day. And then they're like, aw. It's just so cool to have him like totally stand for Luffy. It's just my heart.
When he says every time I read about him, I think about that day, I briefly imagine him flashing back to Luffy kicking his ass on Enies Lobby and going, okay, not that one. And then to Marineford when Kobe's like, I'm gonna fight you even though, and then just getting punched in the face like, okay, not that one either.
You know what I see every single time he says that? I always see poor little Coby rowing the boat.
Yeah, that was that one, I guess. That's a good day.
Aw, ever since that one day when I was rowing the boat for you.
You were eating an apple, I think.
You were just leaning back telling me about how you were going to be king of the pirates. I love that time.
All right, so.
This is the guy who screwed up my deal. What's he doing in that old hag's place? Mm-hmm. And then me and Blackbeard are on the same page. Say, haha, an emperor? You're not ready for that yet, Straw Hat. Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be a whole smorgasbord of challenges for you. But you know what? You're already smorgasbord challenging anyways, so why not? You might as well. And I liked how angry Mum was. But here's the part that really matters. The part that really matters is the reaction of our good old friend Red Hair Shanks. And Red Hair Shanks, your bounty isn't 150 million, it's 1.5 billion, they say. And they're like almost whole eyeballs flying out of heads. But the reason that I like it is Red Hair Shanks says, I guess we'll be meeting soon. And I was like, oh, I can't even. When they meet up again, I might not be able to read it, for the tears will be pouring from my eyes. The snot will be flying out of my nose, because that's how you cry. Everyone knows that how you cry is mostly snot. I will not be able to handle it. I will just go wild.
I stand by team Shanks dies before they get to meet, and it's tragic.
So now I know that Shanks is still alive where you are, because you wouldn't say that otherwise.
Stop reading into things I say.
I'll read into everything you say. Just always remember that. So Shanks is still alive and they haven't met up yet. I see. I have a new idea for if we don't kill Luffy.
Oh?
Well, if they don't kill Luffy and we want to see the ending of it, I mean, don't get me wrong, we could still kill him, given, and by we, I mean Oda, because we're not writing the story.
No, we have no power here.
Yeah, but if the hat was passed on to Roger, which I think it was, Roger passed it on to Red Hair Shanks while he was still crewing on his boat, and Red Hair Shanks passed it on to Luffy, I think we're going to get to see Luffy pass the hat on.
I think that makes sense.
And I think that will be pretty amazing.
And I think he's not going to do it until Shanks is dead.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I was not going to talk about that part, but I guess we have no choice now. Because he promised that he would give the hat back.
Luffy's not going to break his promise to Shanks. The only way he could give it on is if Shanks is dead and he becomes the person who needs to give it to someone.
Yeah. I'm hoping...
And I have a theory for who he will give it to, but we are not there yet, so I can't say
I'm hoping it's a girl.
You're hoping it's a girl?
I'm hoping it's a
girl.
girl.
Well, the character I think it is a girl, and I can't say who it is because you're not there yet.
I think it would be so incredible just in the story himself. And it would also say a lot about Oda's journey as a father with his own daughters if he gave it to a girl afterwards. But I think we're going to get to watch him pass the
I
hat
think
on.
it's a girl. I think it's a girl who a lot of the writing people have read into and been like, oh, the writing around this girl is how Oda sees his daughters. So I think you're 100% right. And this is a theory that I've had since before you've said this. So when you get there, I'm excited to talk about it.
That's really cool. So that's what I decided. I have decided that we are going to see Luffy pass the hat on, even though he is going to be Pirate King. He's going to be comfortable in the role or whatever. And I think we're going to get to watch him pass the hat on and tell that person, come see me when you're big enough, or give me the hat back when you're big enough. And I think it's the circle of life. And then we're all going to go, humana, humana, manana. And then we're going to cry and cry. That's what I think. That's my prediction.
All right.
I love that the revolutionaries are hanging out on Kamabaka Island and think it's absolutely incredible.
I mean, Blackbeard blew up Baltigo, so they needed to go somewhere.
Like, where else is better for the revolutionaries than on this island where all the mountains are hills and pink hearts? Like, rainbows always in the background. Tell me a better place for a revolutionary army who says, and I quote, I think that it's time to declare war against the celestial dragons. I was like, where
There's something
better?
so great about having a tea party in fairyland and be like, time to declare war on God.
I honestly think it couldn't have happened in a better place, because if you consider that Kamabaka is talking about people who are trans or who are
basically gender non-conforming in any way, whether that's sexuality or gender identity.
Exactly. So when you think about the non-conforming aspect of it and the idea that they are living as large, out loud, and taking up space as much as they want, if you think about that, then it is the most incredible setting to say, like, we don't like the way in which you are forcing us into the boxes that you have designed. People should get to live the life that they want. The world should be united. And so for that reason, we are declaring war. And they do it on this island where people have already declared their own kind of individual wars against how society is. So I think in actuality, I am being totally non-facetious in saying, like, the best place to declare war against the celestial dragons. See you later, gods. I couldn't be happier that this little 52 million berry ugly ass dude with the terrible stance. I don't like people who stand that way.
Sorry, people I'm just gonna let you go. There are details you were noticing that I do not remember.
He stands like he has a dragon between his legs.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Like he's used to riding dragons.
All right.
Mama ate the roast fruit. I don't like it. He's standing as his legs are as far apart and bent as they could possibly be in this picture. And I was like, ugh. And then he beats the crap out of people and thinks that he's so cool. And you know what doesn't happen? That doesn't happen because some biatches from the Revolutionary Army show up. And you can't really read their names when you look at it in color on here. I looked inside of my book because I didn't have my book on me that day to see whether or not you could see it better when it was in black and white. And it is marginally better in black and white, which was nice because I was like, I have no farking idea. But the Karasu, Lindbergh, Bellow Betty, and then Morley. You know what's really interesting about them is that they almost fall into the four directions as well.
Well, they represent the four seas, the east, north, south, and west blue.
I know, but they're a mirror of the four directions, just like I said the four emperors were.
It makes sense that mythology would be in both places, especially with your ideas around Dragon and his representation.
Exactly. Including Karasu. Later on, they're like, did he just snap? And they gave him the mask, the plague mask, which is also like a turtle's beak.
Oh, I would go bird for the plague doctor mask 100%. Vermilion bird is what I'd imagine.
Except for he is from the Northern Forces, which is the Black Tortoise.
All right.
And then later on, when he's doing it and he's fighting against them, they literally say, did he just snap? He says snap and then closes his beak on them. And I was like, it's almost like a snapping turtle. Anyways, when you look at them, they kind of fall in line with the thing, except for Lindbergh. It would be better if Bello Betty's color was on Lindbergh, but also kind of not, so it's okay. I just thought that was kind of interesting because, yeah, they are for the four different seas, and then they fall within the for animals. I love Bello Betty's outfit. Like, it's full drip. Morley is pretty awesome in that he's falling in that same thing as our pretty boy Duval and our doctor, because he's doing the, are you looking at me? Why are you staring at me?
Worth noting, while not mentioned here, Morley's primary pronoun is she, her, which...
Oh, is it?
Yep. Meant to
When
be
does it get mentioned?
not presenting feminine, but identifying. Yeah, it's not...
Because it hasn't been mentioned yet. I'm a teacher. I would pick up on that, because that is a thing that we need to be very aware of.
Apparently it's easier to tell in Japanese because the speech patterns...
Oh, because there's male, female. Yeah. Her riling up the audience and giving her speech. I have decided that that devil fruit in particular would be so incredible in so many situations.
A revolutionary is one of the best places for it, but there's ton... imagine a football coach with that power.
You know, imagine somebody like that out on the rugby pitch, or imagine somebody like that in a boardroom, or who was like the director on a major Broadway production. Like, you could literally just use this out of that.
Global Revolution's probably also a pretty useful place.
Okay, I mean, it's a little more impactful, but a teacher, that's so true, Cat too. I would use the crap out of it. So I like that they rile up the people, and it's kind of the same idea that Luffy has. So it's neat to see that Dragon's people within the Revolutionary Army have that same baseline as Luffy has, that we help those who help themselves. Because she said, you did well today. Call us anytime. Wherever the weak stand up for themselves, we'll be close behind to help. That's a Luffy trait. If you're not going to stand up for yourself, we're not going to be there and do it. We're not doing it on our own. We are not the people who come in and just rescue you. You were usually in different places, and right now we're all together. But wherever the weak stand up for themselves, that's where you'll find us.
I think that's definitely a theme of this arc, because we see Bello Betty, and we also see Coby and Shirahoshi, two weak people who wanted more out of life, who Luffy inspired to fight for what they wanted.
Yeah, I agree. And although they're no longer weak, they've definitely come out of that situation.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to say to Bello Betty, okay, where were you when Nami's world was going down, baby?
Oh yeah, is she the East Blue person? Oh, yeah, I forgot that. It's not a huge spoiler to just say this part. Basically, she didn't have that job 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. I'll allow that.
Yeah. So, you know what? She probably would help now. So Nami just had to hold out 2 more years if the Straw Hats didn't find her.
The Saga of the Self-Proclaimed Straw Hat Fleet number 35. Orlumbus, the pirate's life, 6 a.m., folding pajamas. I liked this picture so much. I like the discipline looking around his cabin. I like that he's in the Japanese pose of numb legs and folding up his pajamas into perfection. And the reason I liked it so much and I paused on it is he is about to quit his job, which is a big deal considering that he ends up stealing a bunch of the different ships, etc. And this picture here, prior to his actions that might seem unhinged, shows that he is a thoughtful, considered person who doesn't just do things in a chaotic, willy-nilly way. He would have thought about them. He would have rethought about them. And so if he's doing something, it's coming from a place of deep consideration, because he's clearly a very methodical person who has a lot of self-discipline. And so when I saw this picture, for me, I was like, that is the perfect picture to start his little side arc that we're going to see with him leaving, because it's obvious right away that's what we're going to see. It so articulates that he isn't just doing this on a whim, and he didn't just get caught up in Luffy's bravado. Because the thing about Bello Betty is she's a momentary bravado that gets people to fight for themselves, and then she leaves, that bravado leaves, and they're going to have to find their own. Whereas the thing about Luffy is his leadership and the charisma that he has pulled them in long term. Old Jim came back and said, like, yeah, I absolutely am going to be part of your crew, and then came back and lived up to his promises. And here with Orlumbus, we see somebody who was inside of the time that we had at Dressrosa, and then here he is going back and quitting properly, and then going back out onto the water to be part of Luffy's crew. And I thought that was fantastic because it shows the longevity of Luffy's reach as a leader.
I like that. That's a good observation.
I don't know how else you would do it, right? Like, if you're thinking as Oda, how do you articulate the power of Luffy's leadership and Luffy's draw? You could do it with people with all sorts of bravado and fighting, but that doesn't do it, because that's still loud. You're still pumped up. You're full of adrenaline. You're running into the world. You're part of the excitement, and you're caught up in a whirlwind. This person here shows a person who is not caught up in anything. They're just quietly sitting with themselves and thinking about the next few days and what they're going to be doing, and they feel purposeful. So I think, like, as far as phenomenal writing goes, to say a lot with very little, this picture is worth more than 1,000 words.
I always
and I was really impressed.
And I don't think what I'm about to say is not at all what it is, but I've always just read this whole bit as like, oh, it's funny that we're showing around the world the Straw Hat Grand Fleet captains, and the joke is this guy's boring. And I think that is the bit. But there is more to it than that. I think you're right that a lot of it is highlighting that it isn't just a bunch of disorderly kids who are following Luffy's motivation. It's also this very disciplined person. I like that. That adds a lot of value to it.
And that it's more than hype, I think, is really important, because hype is something that can wear off. And what we're seeing there isn't hype. So I think that was really, really cool. I liked seeing that we moved the new Marine Ford to the other side of the red line. I think that is pretty cool, because it also articulates that they have that easy of a job of moving back and forth across the red line. To them, it is nothing, right? So it articulates that making a choice to be on one side of the red line or the other, no big deal. MBD. We can be wherever the hell we want. We move with impunity. So deciding to build the new Marine Ford on the other side and making the old Marine Ford the G1 base isn't that big of a deal. And I think that that's a pretty cool way of showing their power of mobility over everybody else on the world. Mm-hmm. I really like that. Okay, I told him he wasn't to step into any military base until he brought me Straw Hat Luffy. What does that boy think he's doing slinking back here? Yes, sir, I'm well aware of that. Well, sir, he was armed with infallible rhetorical weapons. We had no argument against him. That was one of my favorite lines of all times. If you ask me, that doesn't count as military grounds. Split hairs! That's not rhetoric! It's a brain teaser! It was so good. I love semantic ambiguity, so I'm here with him. Well done. Split those hairs. I love me some semantics.
Time to cancel Drock for being anti-semantic.
I think the design they created to move people up and down the red line just proved our point that the red line being in a perfect shape that it is, clearly having been under the ocean at one time, the way that it shows the sides of the cliffs, etc., is kind of like a dead giveaway that it used to be underwater and that it was literally split from the earth asunder and pushed up. I think these images that we've seen of the red line for the first time really show that it's kind of like a perfect cut on both sides and a lift. It just feels like a dead giveaway, in my opinion. So I think we are going to find out that underneath the red line is a perfect puzzle piece slot where it can just slide back down into to create the all blue. Honestly, that's how it felt. I love the bubble cars that they take to move them up and down too. Those are really cool. I still feel very uncomfortable about the matrio chesses. I want the princesses to fit into each other like proper Russian nesting dolls. Their existence as weird round things and everyone thinking they're so cute was very uncomfortable for me. Where are their legs? Are we going to see legs? Is this the only time I'm going to see them?
Yeah, I think that's the only time you're going to see them. I think they are just there to fill space.
I am so uncomfortable with their existence. I can't even tell you. I've gone back to that picture 3 times now to be like, do they have legs?
Good Lord.
Are they walking or wobbling? What is going on? I'm wondering if the reason dragons wear bubbles on their head has to do with the possibility that it used to be underwater, like some sort of cultural remnant because the red line was down under the Marines. Maybe. It's an interesting thought too, isn't it? Let's keep that in the back of the mind. I like how everyone reacted to Wimpy Hoshi. They should bow down to Wimpy Hoshi, bitches. Bow down. Garp is very unaffected by women, though, hey? He's just like, meh.
I mean, it's interesting, unaffected to an extent, but he's also like, yeah, of course, you're very beautiful. Like, just says it like a fact. Like, yeah, I'm aware. You're incredible. But also, like...
He's not running around being, like, kind of, like, very Luffy-ish about...
Luffy, but Luffy also is kind of incapable of telling who's hot, it feels like, whereas Garp's like, yeah, you're beautiful. And that's it. It's something Luffy-esque, but it's not the exact same.
The photographer who always screams, fire, as their quote... says, she's beyond what the story says. Should we run a special on her, boss? And is taking a picture of the unfathomable beauty of Wimpy Hoshi. And he was also the person who worked for the government. If you look at Jimmy Scoops inside of the SBS, we see that he worked for the government as a young lad and that he got fired for always having the lens cap on his camera.
You did make it a prediction that there was a special magical reason Sanji couldn't be photographed, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, well then I get a mushroom for that. And now the reason that he has been hired inspired by the paper is they bought him a camera. See, I didn't know if I made it a prediction or not. I couldn't remember if I just said like maybe it'll be a special thing, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I didn't know. But then they said they bought him a camera without a lens cap so they didn't have to worry about it anymore. Yeah, I thought that was amazing. I also think it's amazing that they made President Morgan's Twitter pated and that he just was like, that's right, I'm going to use the word Twitter pated. Disney, you don't own the word Twitter pated. I was like, I see you, Oda, and I approve of that.
I wonder what the Japanese word that got turned into Twitter pated is.
I hope so, because that Twitter pated is like a word that I say all the time because I love it. I'm like, spring is here. Time for all the Twitter patient. But see, yeah, because Garp does notice. And with all the look she got, I'd say she'd even passes that bar. So Garp is saying like, yeah, she's definitely hotter. Garp out here just saying like, you want to be one of those scumbags when the ugly stepbrother is talking about the dragons and he's like, oh my god, you could be put to death. And then Garp's like, right, it's a no.
This is the type of that makes him a top 5 now.
Why would you want to be one of those pieces of like that was some wildness. Even I felt uncomfortable and I was like, Garp, I know that you're fictional. I'm uncomfortable with you saying that. And Garp is like, suck toads. It's also good that whenever Stelly gets put down, I'm happy because Stelly is so disgusting and gross and icky. And then he puts down the fish people and honestly, more bad things should happen to him. When she goes up here and she says,
Yeah.
And by she, I mean Wimpy Hoshi. What is it, Shirahoshi? Father, it's the sun. Brothers, see how bright and warm it shines. There is no limit to the sky above, and there is no limit to the sea beyond, glittering in the sunlight. It sure is a pretty sight, Mambo. I never knew the surface would be this wonderful. And then she says, what a beautiful world. Father, if it can come true, I would like to live on the surface. I want everyone in our kingdom in this world of the sun. And then later she says, I want to live under the power of the sun. And I was like, do you now? And would that power of the sun be Luffy?
You ain't know nothing.
I know everything. The Holy Land, Marijois. Sakazuki says he wants me to find you and kick you out. Shall we do battle then? Oh, no, I'd rather not. Besides, you're not going to destroy this meeting, are you? I might be crashing the meeting, but it's the system I actually mean to destroy. That was mighty tasty, much obliged. You came a long way for this. How's old Vegapunk doing? Well, you may not be able to see it, but he's got quite the creation on his hand. There's no longer any need for the 7 warlords of the sea.
What do you think Vegapunk done made that fully replaces the 7 warlords?
So, at first I asked myself, is the thing that he made just Kuma, and that Kuma can take over Kuma replicated Kumas? Kuma could take over as the 7 warlords of the sea's responsibilities. And then I was like, we don't have enough information actually about what the 7 warlords of the sea are bringing is the problem.
Yeah, my leaning when I read this is that it has to be something new just because like Pacifista are powerful against weak pirates, but we've seen the Straw Hats
before we got stronger. So I had that, and then I started to think it needs to be something more specific because we have specifically the number 7 feels like it is engaged in almost like, I don't want to say a spiritual or ritual, but kind of a ritual thing, right? Like there's something that has to be invented to hold the spot ritually. Then when I met Emu, who P.S.
What a reveal.
Damn, Emu. That's a freaky bastard. Then when I met Emu, I was like, ritualism seems to be really strong in this Emu land. And it seems like this dark bastard, it needs to keep something very specific going in order to hold this world together. Do you know what I mean? And so if he is holding some ritualistic thing together in some way to keep this world going, then that would be the thing that would be able to be replaced by Vegapunk.
So you think it's 7 something?
Yeah. I was like, okay, you've got the 4 oceans and directions. You have a 5th element in the center, but that's only 5. How are we using the 7 warlords?
I like these ideas. I think the direction here is very fun.
I'm just...
whether accurate or not.
Yeah, I have to come back to that. And we're coming back into Emu and in a minute, so it's fine. But there's something ritualistic holding things together. My question is, does Vegapunk want it held together?
Does Vegapunk know about that part? Does Fujitora? Because Fujitora, at the very least, would think that he just needs military power, you'd figure. Like, he wouldn't know about all this spooky shit. would probably just be like, it's got to be something strong enough.
Exactly. How much information does Vegapunk have? Well, if Vegapunk is secretly on the side of Kuma, if I'm correct about that, then is Vegapunk secretly on the side of Revolution? And then would Vegapunk know?
Kaito brings up what happens to the 7 warlords if they do get abolished as an order.
Yeah, because they don't just F off. They're not going to be like, oh, you don't want us anymore? Our bad, bye.
The world government has suddenly made enemies of a lot of the world's most powerful people. So whatever it is, it has to not only be enough to replace them, but enough that the world government isn't afraid of them as enemies.
Yeah, but later on, the elders talk about how it's time to have a great cleansing
Yep.
of the world. So is what happens their deaths?
Could be. But that means whatever's replacing them has to be enough that they're sure they can kill all 7 of them.
Oh my God, this person said 7 colors of the rainbow, and I don't know where they are, but I now wonder whether or not each of the 7 warlords is representative of a specific color.
This one's not a joke. I'm anti 7 colors of the rainbow. There's only 6 colors, bitch. Fight me.
You don't believe in ultraviolets because you can't see them?
Well, no. It's that indigo was genuinely only added to make the system appeal to royalty so that they push for Roy G. Biv to be accepted as the sorting of it.
Oh, that's not how I see it. I see indigo as being in the color spectrum that we can't see easy.
No. Indigo is between violet and blue. You're talking about ultraviolet. Indigo was added. Like, doesn't anyone find it weird at all that there's no other color that's between a primary and secondary color in the entire rainbow? That, like, purple's a secondary color.
You're not wrong.
Blue is a primary color. And then the area between them is for some reason in the rainbow when like tangerine, lime, scarlet, cyan, none of those are. And for some reason, indigo is the only one. It shouldn't be in there. Get it out. 6 color rainbow.
A, let's put in ultraviolet and infrared. B, when you look at the rainbow up in the sky, you can see all sorts of shades if you get a good enough rainbow in between too.
I'm not opposed to more colors. I'm opposed to more colors in this one system, in this one little palette. But also, the primary colors are fake. Those aren't the real primary colors. CMYK for life. I got color opinion. The CMYK rainbows, what we probably should use, because blue, red, and yellow are not the primary colors. They are just the only primary colors it used to be technologically feasible to make pigment for. So they were the closest we could get. We can move on.
I feel like I've met Green Bull before.
He's been mentioned briefly. Yeah, they mentioned him in Dressrosa. He is one of the new admirals brought on board alongside Fujitora when they did the conscription program and conscripted a bunch of people into the Navy.
But I've never heard of him before when he wasn't an admiral and he was just very uncomfortable with him.
He's got a vibe about him, huh?
Wait, I want to read this part because this is very interesting. He says to him, "Are you still in the middle of your fast?" Well, if a pretty lady asked me to open wide, I suppose I'd chow down. And that's why I haven't had a bite for 3 darn years. I hope it's not Wimpy Hoshi that he's going to get all obsessed with and she's going to offer him to something to eat. You know why? She's 16. She's already had someone obsessing about her since she was a baby. That would make me vomit. I'd be like, no, just let her be a child, please. Please, just let her be a child.
This was a debate in the fan base at this point. Do you think he's going to be a bad guy admiral like Akainu and / Sakazuki? Do you think he's going to be a good guy admiral like Fujitora / some people say Aokiji? Or do you think he's going to be somewhere in between like Kizaru, the light admiral, or Selino?
I think it's really strange that they're asking Koala if she feels uncomfortable that they're fighting for the same people as fishmen. Like, I think it's really strange. It's the celestial dragons who control it. I'm like, yeah, no. Koala by now couldn't be in the Revolutionary Army and still have any kind of hatred for the fishmen. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, she very clearly doesn't hate them. She's the only human to learn fishman karate.
I was so excited, though, to see our boy Sabo going up in the elevator and saying, "Please be at ease, King Stelly." You know what, King Stelly? I think you're about to get your comeuppance, and I'm so here for it. When you get your comeuppance, King Stelly, I'm going to hold a mini parade. It's going to be me, my 2 dogs, and Papa Drock. I'll hold a cat, he'll hold a cat, and we're parading.
What if King Stelly at the end of the series just gets a redemption and becomes a good guy and learns his lesson?
I don't want that.
Well, I mean, it's better for society if people learn their lesson.
I agree. Not him.
Not him. He should not get to learn a lesson.
He should get the comeuppance. Are these 2 stairways that each have 1, 2, 3, 4, seem to each have 5 statues in them on the 2 things? Are each of these statues representations of the founding people who created the
5 of them. Would it be the Elder Stars? Because there's 20 kingdoms that founded the
No, there's
Millennium.
5 on each side of the stairway. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh.
5, and there's 2 stairways, so it would be 20. I think it's the founders of the
Yeah.
New World, which I thought was a interesting way to start. Prior to coming up here, you have to see the founders. Oh my god! Alabasta's original family being one of the 20, and they decided to stay down on Earth.
It means that Vivi's technically a celestial dragon, kind of.
Not even kind of, she just is. And on top of that, the down on Earth, or down below, they said, also points to the red line being a made thing that happened at the beginning of the 800 years, because they say they decided to stay down below in the lower realm, yeah, which would say that it's constructed or thing that was moved up.
Makes sense.
I was very happy with that. I was like, I'm here for that. The underground moving sidewalk with the slaves underneath, it was so gross.
Yeah. Oh, wow, the sidewalk moves. That's incredible. What technology?
Oh my god, this is so modern. Oh, just a minute. There's people. So gross. I was so happy that they got off the sidewalk. This was the point where everybody was meeting her and she upset people because they were like, oh, look at my son. By the way, the one son looked so much like a host of a game show that it was almost insane. I was like, oh my god, I think I know that host. I think I remember him hosting. This one in particular kind of looks like Pat Sajak. When Shirahoshi makes her little thing and she fumbles and then she gets saved and gets to talk to Rebecca and Vivian Carew about Luffy and feels like she belongs there, and she's just starting to feel like she's making friends, she's fitting in, and she's so excited. We get a little flashback and they're like, oh my god, are you talking about Sir Luffy just now? And they have this amazing little talk. I owe him and his companions a great debt. Ditto! And it was just this whole great moment and I loved it. I mean, Wapol did show up and he was, I don't know. You know when you burp and it tastes like rotten egg? That's Wapol.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I want to just say I'm putting that out there. That's how I think. Every time I see Wapol's face and he talks, I just think of like rotten egg burps. And I'm like, that's who you are, baby.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, they may call this chick having the dig fruit I don't know if they want her to be Kinderella, which would be like child Cinderella, and child Cinderella was already very young, or if it's Kinderella, I don't care. All I'm saying is when they're like, she's a gold digger, gold dig, I'm like, good. That is the wife Wapol, the rotten egg burp, deserves. If anything, she is a gold digger who is not getting enough from this relationship.
I mean, he is like a man who became so wealthy by inventing a new metal by accident that he bought a kingdom.
The fact that she has to hang out with him and pretend to like him, he should have to pay her for that. He should have to pay his friends for being in a room with him. He should have to pay his wife for hanging out with him. He should have to pay his dogs and cats for being his pet. Everyone in his world should get paid for being in his world.
Murmadrock, how are we going to get the fused Straw Hats without Wapol?
Don't make me burp rotten eggs.
You want the fused Straw Hats?
Yeah, I want them to fuse on their own. I don't want them to be eaten by a rotten egg burp.
How else are we going to get it?
We're going to get it in an interesting way.
We're going to get it with Wapol's devil fruit, and you know it.
He makes me upset. But you know what's really good is that Dalton puts him in his place in such a delicious way, where he's talking and he's going off, go off with your bad smelled self. And he's like, what does a servant like you get off telling me? And he goes, we are on equal footing now. And I imagine that's how it sounds, because Dalton does turn into a bit of a bull. And then he goes, you're growing into your king role too, Dalton. And then this is beautiful because he goes off all about how it's impossible to run a squeaky clean country and da-da-da-da-da, and he's going on and on. And instead of even like having a conversation, instead of that, he just turns around and goes, did you read the article about Luffy? To the people, which is fantastic because Wapol is in the background still going, I will have my revenge. And his words are being cut out because he's just like, I don't give a shit about you, bro. Your words and your smell, too much for me. I need you to remember, I'm better than you.
I wish Wapol could understand the narrative of One Piece, and that you do realize for you to be a threat, Luffy needed to be on death's door and all of the Straw Hats needed to be incapacitated or non-present.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Luffy had to climb a mountain for like a straight day, barely covered, with his bare hands and no climbing equipment, to be weak enough for you to be slightly threatening.
You know what needs to happen is Wapol needs to put his feet in his mouth and then just keep pushing backwards until he eats his own ass, turns inside out, and then maybe if he was inside out, he'd be a better person.
Luffy showed up to fight Crocodile and was in peak condition and lost twice. Come on, Wapol.
This is why it made me so sad, because my sweet, sweet little kids are there, and then they go, "Excuse me, Dalton, do you like Lucy? We bet you like Luffy Land. He's the best. Eek, this is going to be so fun." This is the gold star I got because little Mr. Pissy Webs is in the basement. I like that they chained him fully down. And we're like, we're going to put these around your waist. We're going to put these around your arms. We're going to lock you here. And then he says, to make sure I don't go spilling the secrets of Mary Joie's hidden treasure.
Oopsie doopsie, I got the secrets.
Secrets, Mary Joie. I never really noticed, because I always say it is Mary Joie. I've never even noticed that it's two names and that it's a person's name, Mary and Joie.
I mean, isn't joie like a specific word? I thought no, they both are words. I thought it means something.
Time to put that in.
I'll look it up and Google and joie is a name. Marie and joie are both names.
Are they trying to say it's more like a play on the idea of joie de vivre, or a person who is both merry, as in happy, and joie, full of life, like happy life? I just think it's interesting because merry is also something that we would talk about as being happy. Anyway, a hired killer to silence me for good? Just let the secret out. Power has such a short shelf life. It goes bad very quickly. I gotta tell you, I hate you, but I love you, Don Quixote.
Yeah, that's the normal reaction.
You are so fun to despise, and I kind of like you, and a little part of me, and I mean like really little, kind of wants to date you. You're just like, you're the worst. You're so gross, but also you're kind of hot. Mama, no! I'm not going to lie, Drop. I've opened up more than I counted on.
By saying that Dofi is hot? Yeah.
Everyone. I hate him. I love to hate him. He's kind of hot. I know he would smell wild. He's evil hot. There's some other stuff I'm not saying out loud.
He would wear a very specific cologne that no normal man
you
wears.
You would smell it, and it would be him. And if you walked into a room and smelt that, you'd be like, oh, shit. Okay, when he says that, and then we see this god dang straw hat, which is huge to the max with Emu, and Emu goes through all of this shit that looks like it's way higher up in the clouds and it's frozen, and it almost looks like there's cloud or ice stuck to the building, and then goes inside to where the goddamn straw hat is. So that's obviously the thing that Dofi is talking about.
The reading I prefer is that Emu himself is the treasure.
I thought about him in that way earlier, but I feel like it's a combo.
It could be. There are things like that.
He goes in there specifically to stare at this giant ass straw hat. Do we know what the hat is made out of?
Probably straw.
No.
It looks like straw.
It's not straw.
That would explain why it's in cold storage, so that it doesn't rot.
I mean, yeah, but...
Because it's got frost on it.
No. Because if it was straw, you wouldn't allow that to happen, because when it melted, it would do massive damage.
Just so you know something about this hat, by the way, people have done some basic measurements based off of how it compares in size to Emu and how he compares size to the empty throne, and their estimate is it's too small for a giant, but about the right size for someone the size of like Kaido, Big Mom, Kuma, like Moria.
Or Wimpy Hoshi?
I think she's too big because she's giant sized.
Luffy in his big size?
Gear 4th Luffy, where he's all ballooned up, is about Katakuri height almost, but his head is about the same size, so I don't think Luffy could wear it in Gear 4th.
It's a lid, it's a tomb, there's drawings on the outside of it, carvings on the outside of it as something. I wish I could see more of it, but they've covered too many of them up, but it's definitely a tomb.
Oh, that makes sense.
So the person who wore that hat is inside of it.
My theory since I saw it, originally, immediately, my thought is that's Joy Boy's hat. And if people are saying it's a tomb, that's Joy Boy's tomb, is my guess.
Interesting, because it definitely looks like a tomb.
I have truly always been like, yeah, that's Joy Boy's hat. That was my immediate thought when I saw it, and I am convinced of that.
Yeah, we're going to need to look at that later, because it does seem to be in a half moon shape with the hat sitting over top. But having it be on top of a tomb would make sense, in my opinion, even though it's in a half moon shape, because that's where you would put it, right? Like, it's weird otherwise.
It's so much to think about. I love this bit because, God, this is confusing.
Okay, they were speaking on a call right out in the open, so they don't even care about being overheard. says the Marines. A challenge to stop us if you can, perhaps? What sort of force would we need to stop them? Admirals? Warlords of the sea? Shall I head out, Suzuki? No, Boris Lino.
Can we just say that man has some confidence to ask that question?
Because this is what I was just about to say when I finished the other dude's talk. They say, what sort of a force would we need to stop them? Admirals? Warlords of the sea? Shall I head out all on my own?
You want me to do it? I got this.
I'm pretty strong. Remember, there's an unknown military force in Wano. The samurai, you mean? So how strong is in Wano that we're talking about all of this going down, and the guy is like, just hold your horses, Boris Lino. We do have the unknown military force in Wano.
But the thing is, the unknown military force, it's unknown, so it could be strong, but we do know that Kinemon is like not quite Zoro level, but a very, very competent swordsman. Like, it takes a lot to outmatch him as far as we've seen, and he's just a guy from Wano. So clearly there's something going on there.
Wano isn't connected to the rest of it, so it is Japan during their xenophobia when they've isolated themselves from the rest of the world. So we don't know what their forces are like or how many soldiers they have or what that looks like inside. Do we get a second reverie?
You cannot imagine that I would answer that question.
I just put things out there and then we see what comes. Because if we get a second reverie, it would be amazing to see, if we haven't seen it yet, if when the curtains come down, if we get to see Wano being a part of the world government at the next reverie. I think that would be really cool too.
The thing is, the reveries are only every 4 years, so we'd need a time skip just that.
So when the curtains come down and everything happens, it would be pretty cool. If we had another time, because whenever you guys would talk about time skip, you would always talk about it in the singular. So I can't imagine there's a second time skip.
Yet.
True enough. I love too that when we go to the table where Garp is eating and then he's like, the reverie is on now. Any force capable of stopping them is dedicated to protecting the royalty. And then she asks about, he said the land of Wano is not a member of the world, blah, blah, blah. But Garp, speaking of Big Mama and Kaido, isn't the reason you're considered a marine hero? Oh, you mean rocks? I had figured you were too young to know about that. Before Roger, it was their era, but that was over 40 years ago. The past is the past.
Have you put thought into what Rocks is?
Could Rocks be the mother of, like, Shaki?
Who's say?
Or is it a girl? Do we know? Do they say?
Eventually, you will know what Rocks is and why it involves Kaido and Big Mom and Garp. Just so you know, Mama Rocks has been very, very busy, so she has not had the time she had around Jaya to fully dig into all this.
What are you trying to say?
You haven't had as much time as you would like with this section.
Rude.
You've said that!
I started to wonder about whether Rocks was a person that Garp was with, because it was 40 years ago. She would be 20. So if Luffy is 19, yeah, could be like a Luffy's mom. But anyways, it was this part here that made me think, when I listened to him saying like that was before Roger, that could be the whole thing about passing on the hat. Before Roger, it was their era. And then the hat was passed off to Roger.
So whose era?
Who else is in that age?
Do you want me to list like just general characters or specifically pirates in that age?
Characters.
You got Sengoku, you got Whitebeard, you got Shaki, you got Rayleigh, you have Tsuru, Crocus.
But Shaki and Rayleigh were together in the same time period with Roger. And so it's not them because it's before that.
Possibly.
And it's not Crocus. Uggy was a child.
Gloriosa, yeah, a bit older, but a similar age.
That bothers me.
Shiki, yep, Shiki.
How old is Vegapunk?
Vegapunk, we don't know.
I feel like Vegapunk could definitely be within that list. Vegapunk is 65. Yeah, so 40 years ago, so we put him at 25. That's perfect Vegapunk time. And Whitebeard was still getting close to being King of the Pirates when he passed, so why would it be his era back then? And Dragon would be around the same age. How old is Kuma?
Kuma, I think, is significantly younger than all of those people.
That's what I thought. And Kuma was on board with Dragon, who's how old?
Well, Garp's child, so significantly younger than all those people.
Exactly. And this is why I'm saying, how old is Garp?
Garp is around the same age as people like Kaido, Big Mom. I think he's like 70.
Yeah, so it's not Luffy's mom. It could be Luffy's grandma. I would really love it if Garp had a love interest.
I mean, he had a kid.
Yeah, I saw it. I think it's interesting that Shirahoshi's name means white sun. I was trying to think of what was the first weapon that we saw?
Ancient weapon?
Yeah.
She's the first one we've seen. The first one we knew about was...
It's the Pluton, and we haven't seen anything connected to the Pluton. And we haven't seen a person connected to the Pluton. I think it would be interesting to find out if all their names are going to have something to do with the sun, since hers means white star, which is white sun, basically. And then Luffy in the center, so it becomes like a supernova. Also, the idea of, it's very interesting that it's called Pangea, like it's the whole world together, when it is the thing that divides the world. So I think they're all just little clues, like this area was never meant to exist and it was created.
It's in theory meant to unite the world because it's where the world comes together to govern. But yeah.
And instead, it's the thing that's created a division. So by it going down, it reunites all the oceans and all the people and changes the currents. And I love that idea. Of course, the little piece of crap gets to the throne and decides that what Stelly wants to do is go and sit on it instead of, okay, here we are. This is the part that I wanted to get into. Even though I hate, because this was the picture that I was going to get you to draw when St. Charles tries to steal Wimpy Hoshi, which just devastated me. After she was like, I'm so glad to be up here. I can't believe I get to be under the sun. We're going to create love and trust between our kingdoms. And then St. Charles comes along and tries to steal her. And then Rob Lucci for CP0, who you'd like to think that as a CP0, he becomes better in some way, because you like to think of CP0, since it's supposed to be policing those who are at the top, would be policing these pieces of shit. But no.
They are a private military and intelligence force that works for the Celestial Dragons.
And that is so incredibly devastating to see how firmly that goes. And screw you, Lucci. I hope a house falls on you.
All my homies hate Rob Lucci.
All of the different people here who are trying to save her or not get involved, and you're just like, I cannot believe that this is happening. And then he gets slugged in the face so hard.
Everybody meet our first great celestial dragon, Saint Miosgard.
This has been a hard week. I have gone back to this picture like 5 or 6 times to just look at this image and just breathe in the full face smack and his tooth getting knocked sideways and blood coming out and his eyes going white and his face folding in on itself. That's a good feeling. That's a good feeling. And to find out that Saint Don Quixote Misgard was the one who was down underneath that time, and that he's also a Don Quixote.
Yep. It turns out the Don Quixotes are a coin flip if they turn out good or bad. Kind
of wild, because if you think about his brother being like so good, and then him being such a bad, awful person, and then him being good, so you're just like,
And Doflamingo's dad being a good person.
Yeah, exactly. So it turns out that for some reason it goes back and forth. I don't think Mingo has a great potential to become good. It's not just that he's bad and he's trying to get his way. It's that he's bad and it feeds his soul to be bad. Yeah. That's why I told you, only the tiniest grain of me finds him attractive. The rest of me is like, oof, look away. Look away from the shiny evil. When we see the 5 elders in the Hall of Pangea Castle, and in comes Red Hair Shanks. We don't see that it's Red Hair Shanks right now. And we only get to see our circles from quite a distance. They're really making them a lot less large in this one, which also made me feel that Oda felt like he had made them far too prominent and that he had done... Why is everyone calling him a rat?
So there's a meme, Shanks the rat, because he's coming in here to be a snitch and tell on a pirate to the cops.
Are you talking about he's coming to snitch on Luffy?
Well, we don't know who he's talking about, but Shanks the rat is a meme that started because he showed up here.
Luffy.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's Luffy.
You don't think it's Luffy?
This, if it's Blackbeard, is the second time Shanks has showed up to warn someone about Blackbeard being a threat.
But if he's worried about Luffy taking on more than he can.
But what's telling the world government going to do about that? He can't tell them to hold up on somebody, but he could tell them to take someone seriously as a threat and put more military effort. Like, they might listen to that, but they're not going to listen to, hey, be nice to my boy, you know?
I think what's very interesting here is that they actually allowed Shanks to come in.
Oh, totally. That says something crazy.
You should have nothing to do with politics. Why are they letting Shanks specifically come in here?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's Blackbeard because I can't imagine anything he'd say about Luffy. Like, I just don't see a motivation for it. But he went out of his way to warn Whitebeard about Blackbeard in person.
What power do you have, Shanks? Why are they making time for you? You're not something like a Celestial. Is it because you have godlike power of some sort? Are you capable of something very incredible? Some sort of weaponry? The reason why I think he's capable of some sort of weaponry or some kind of huge thing is because of his pacifist, that he doesn't fight unless pushed and pushed, and that he has no problem with turning the other cheek. Really feels like one of those things that somebody who is very strong and has nothing to prove move would do.
All right.
And so him being super, super strong and being able to say, like, you're going to need to talk to me. If I've decided we're going to talk, and you're going to make time for me. And I appreciate that you are, is kind of like, you remember what kind of a threat I am.
That makes sense. I'm still money down. He came to talk about Blackbeard.
Unless he is the son of one of the elders. Because if he was the son of one of the elders, then of course they'd let him in. Who looks like you? You don't need to be a redheaded father to have a redheaded son. Whose son are you? Someone is like, Mama loves the elders having a pirate kid. I do, but it's no different than any of the other people whose kids grow up to be pirates or a grandkid, precisely.
It is a thing you have suggested multiple times, however. What I find interesting is you tend to treat the elders far more as characters than most people I see read through the series. Like, you think of them as people and their involvement in the story in a way that most people going through don't. Myself included, most people who go through tend to just treat them as like figures in the world, like a force in the world rather than people. And I think you have more ability to think about them because of that.
I think it's because I'm older than a lot of the people who are reading this, although a lot of them are kind of my age now because of when this came out. But I think it's because you realize at some points that the people in power who you always quivered with, who made you feel uncomfortable and had so much power in them, are actually just people who poop and eat and love and hate. And when you realize that the people who move themselves up are just you, but they're people who had enough to believe that they deserve to be higher up.
I remember real. I don't think those men have the capacity for love. I don't believe it.
They might not, but regardless, they're people. They're just big, powerful, shitty people who still go poop. Yeah, I think he has to, and I've said it time and time again. We're not seeing enough with Shanks. He shows up after the big fight at Marineford. He's willing to stop and protect Luffy, and I still think he was the protection and that Luffy was a big enough deal in some way, or he knew of Luffy's potential and he felt it in some way, you know what I mean? And so he is a protecting agent. Like, why would somebody this powerful allow their arm to be bitten off? I don't know if he's going to be related to the elders. It feels like not related to the elders, but related or attached to somebody very powerful in a very big way. When he first came in his black robe with the hood up, looking so tall, I was like, is he the child of Emu? Because why did they set him this way and then have the juxtaposition of Emu like right before it? And it kind of made me be like, ooh, that's a weird choice. Anyways, so the fact that they are allowing Shanks to be in here says to me it's either Shanks's power or Shanks's nepotism. Like, one of the two things is allowing him into this space. And also, why haven't I seen Shanks's power? Like, has Shanks had a devil fruit? I don't even know that. And so if Shanks has a devil fruit, what the shit is the devil fruit? We haven't been told. We haven't seen him fight. He's still told Mihawk that he could kick his ass even after his arm was taken off. He was just like, didn't even think about it and was just like, yeah, I absolutely can just kick your ass still, and we both know it. We saw him swim, but then he got his goddamn arm ripped off. So I don't know. When I saw him swim, I was like, definitely no devil fruit. But then
we haven't seen him swim in a while.
Yeah, and is the power just deep, impressive haki? The power of haki probably in him is like beyond king power. He probably holds all the powers. And then on top of it, I think that he does have to be related to somebody who is super powerful. And obviously then it's not Emu, but it's going to have to be somebody who's high enough up that they give a shit. I love Mancheri with Wimpy Hoshi. It's incredible because I love Mancheri. I love Mancheri. I love Mancheri. But here's the part that I super love. Meanwhile, outside the front gates of Pangaea Castle, there are 3 gates within each of their own layer of security. Well, if it isn't the Sorbet's kingdom. Queen Dowager of Sorbet Kingdom, Connie. This is the Celestial Dragon Gate. Queen Dowager Connie, beyond this gate is the land of the gods. You cannot pass, I'm afraid. It's dangerous to be here. Please return to the castle. And then we see it hurts so much. Please, St. Charles, be calm. It'll upset your wounds. You haven't heard the last to me. Oh, what in the world has happened? Open the gate. St. Charles has been injured and requires immediate medical assistance. Oh, Charles, are you safe, my boy? I heard there was an incident and I came to get you. St. Roswell, father, what happened to you, my beloved son? And she sneaks past him under the gate, which is pretty impressive all on its own, because she's very old at the time. Huh? Where did the Queen Dowager go? I'll tell you where the Queen Dowager went. That's Don Quixote Midgard is a real crank, a celestial dragon without a single slave. Between him and Home, who left for the world 30 years ago, the entire Don Quixote clan is a mad bunch. Oh, father, you have the invincible slave Kuma. And then he has 1, 2, 3, 4 different frickin' swords and knives in his back. The thing wrapped around his neck, bleeding out of orifices, and the front armpit is filled with blood. Warlord of the Sea, former revolutionary officer, and former king of Sorbet Kingdom? We weren't told that before.
No, this is new.
That's new information.
And didn't they say that? Did they say what kingdom the Queen Dowager is from?
Yeah, Sorbet Kingdom. So she's either disguised as it or she leads a double life. And I'm thinking like...
And actually is the Queen Dowager with her fruit, yes.
And so then I was like, is it possible that she was just talking about Kuma when she was saying that he could have stopped this? And she was just speaking about the fact that he could have pulled back and not allowed them to use him in this way? But that doesn't fit very neatly is the problem, because the Kumas that showed up, he didn't have any control over, right?
No, those were independently controlled by the government.
Exactly. So if he didn't have any control over them, how the hell was he supposed to stop it? But she's obviously either a subject of his or...
Mama's been wondering about a line for a long time from Marineford where Bonnie was looking at the ward, particularly when all the Kumas were blasting, which is why now wondering if it was Kuma, where Bonnie goes, damn it, you could have stopped all of this.
Yeah.
They never make it clear who she's talking about.
I didn't think I'd run across him right in the open like that. Well, I made it inside. Worst generation pirate, captain of the Bonnie Pirate Jewelry, Bonnie. You'll pay, I swear. So who is she talking to here? I don't know. Who is the you that will pay? I don't...
Is it the same person she was talking about at the war?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. He's the finest possible slave, one that doesn't even scream. So I'm wondering if she's from Sorbet Kingdom, if she's either double lifing as both the queen, or if she's just related to the queen, or if it's just part of her ability to switch out, that she can wear people's faces like jewelry. But it's weird, don't you think? Because we already have number 2 who takes on faces.
Yep.
Okay, so in some way, I think because she's able to do aging of people and that she can turn into the queen, in some way you wonder if she's living a double life or if she's related to the queen. Because if she ages up to look like the queen, well, then that tells you one thing. And if she ages up and becomes the queen, then she's living her double life. But she's obviously not talking about Kuma, but she has great love for Kuma and is upset that Kuma is in the position that he's in. So there is somebody who she is speaking about or thinking about, and I still don't know who it is, but I tended to think that it was like the black shadow that lived over the world. People keep asking whether or not that black shadow, because I said I thought that it was someone higher up because we met Don Quixote having a conversation with the dude in the bowler hat. And the dude in the bowler hat could very much be Emu at a different time in a persona that they make public. I don't know what it is. So
yeah, but the shadow above the world is why you got your second Diamond Star. We forgot to mention Diamond Star for predicting the shadow over the world is Emu. Like, that's crazy shit.
Dun da da da. Ba, 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 ba. So I thought maybe that she was related to the dark thing that rules over the world, but then people are saying things like, is that even human? Which makes me wonder if that thing is capable of having babies. But she's pissed at something that was capable of turning the Marine Ford War off. This one is really bothering me.
Are you certain that it was about turning the war off?
Anyway, then Sabo underneath finds out about what they're doing to Kuma, is underground listening to it, and has to go look what is being done to our comrade, to our kind-hearted Kuma. Kuma breaks my soul. Just breaks my soul. Kuma is being victimized by the world government for his entire life. Da, 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 da. That even the hardiest man will turn out like this if he should defy the gods. So Kuma defied the gods, Kuma protected his people, and Kuma got put into the situation. I'm hoping it isn't just Kuma defied the gods. I'm praying that Kuma also made some choices and that Vegapunk is on his side and isn't just evil. Because if Dr. Vegapunk is just evil, that's a whole different level to the story. That changes it entirely, because he's so capable with inventions that could take down the world. The Celestial Dragons have made CPO and the Marine HQ are on their side. If we screw up and get caught, no, we're not getting caught. We either succeed or we die. Okay, so the day of the reverie. And then they did, as a brief reminder, all the seas of the world are split into 4 parts by the red line, the looming continental wall, which I think is unnatural and doesn't exist. When you see it from the top and you see the red line and you see the new world that wraps the whole way around, and you understand, like, this is not how it should be. It should definitely not be there. The dangerous Grand Line stretch of the sea in which Luffy's crew of the voyage portion known as the New World. The world government is a massive organization made up of the majority of the nations, numbering 170 total. And of Of those nations, 50 chosen monarchs have gathered. And I like that one of them is on Luffy's armada. That's so good. So good. And how many of them are worried for Luffy. It really showed an infiltration of Luffy's leadership and Luffy's dreams. You could almost feel them like mushroom roots creeping through everything. So here, I'm going to just read this thing that the elders say. 800 years ago, the Nefertari dynasty was the sole bloodline of the first 20 to remain in the lower realm. Remaining in the lower realm really feels like a lifting of the world, and they decided to remain because they didn't say, it's the word remain. And I don't care what anyone says, I love semantics. When you chose the word remain, it feels like there was no place to go to. They created a place to go to, and they decided to remain. Not just, we had a mountain already, and some of us decided to go onto this giant mountainy thing, and they decided not to. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Remain, that word feels a lot more like deciding to stay in the world that was, and we've now created an area where the special 20 get to go. And that's one of the reasons why I think that word remain is a thing that really helps us to feel like the world used to be more connected and that the red line disconnected it. In other words, they're traitors. Let us pray it does not derail the talks, especially with this discussion of Big Mom and Kaido. It has been 2 years since the Battle of Marineford, and the roiling will not cease. The world's equilibrium cannot be maintained forever. The time has come for a great cleansing. See, that's the part where I was like, absolutely, the time has come for a great cleansing, that they are talking about things like what will happen if you get rid of the 7 pirates and Vegapunk takes that over. This weird little place where we find the Chamber of Flowers, where we find Emu standing like so giantly tall with his weird ass hat, putting its weird ass finger out for a butterfly to land on. Great Emu, they have arrived. Chamber of Flowers, Pangaea Castle. And then he's got a knife through Wimpy Hoshi's eye and all the ripped up paper all around, which shows that even though we are getting a look at Emu as being a person whose emotions are fully fine, they do have emotional outbursts. The fact that they have brought up the picture of Vivi says that I think that Vivi is the person that the light that is supposed to be erased from history.
Well, can I point out something that I think is interesting?
Yeah.
Vivi's the only one that's not cut.
Oh, that's true. But Vivi not being the one that's cut would mean that he would also be showing them an image or doing some sacred thing on it, and you don't want a cut up thing. And Vivi is a descendant of the original 20, and it's possible that her dad has figured something out.
Yeah?
Oh, great, Emu. The 5 elders are at your service. Have you decided upon another light to be erased from history? And I was wondering, when they say erased from history, are they talking about like when the toys are made, where the person completely disappears and no longer exists even in memory?
Could be.
You can't answer that.
Of course I can't answer that.
Simply state the name you wish stricken. And then why does he make a grrrg sound? Like, I'm sorry, Emu. You're supposed to be this big, powerful dude, and the sound you make is grrrg. Nah, gross. Do better. And that's why I wonder if it's going to be Vivi, because Vivi's picture isn't cut at all, and they're going to do some weird thing to it, because all the other ones are equally cut up, except for Shirahoshi isn't cut up at all, except to have the thing through her eye. That would say that he would be more likely to kill Shirahoshi, because he was like, well, that's one I pick. But then why would he be carrying Vivi's?
Good question.
Shirahoshi could be picked because of the thing through her eye, no other cutting. Vivi could be picked because there's nothing, and they're just bringing it out. This frickin' dark ass bitch is really, really adding a layer. Like, I knew it existed,
but actually seeing it changes things.
I kept saying that there's a dark force or a dark shadow, and they talk about the dark shadow and the shadow of darkness. I get to change the shadow of darkness on my corkboard into Emu now.
That's a big reason I thought you should wait until the Reverie to redo your corkboard.
No doubt. And if Emu, yes, is the Void Century, and Emu or other emus is, if Emu isn't 900 years old or whatever, if we have a Void Century, then it would seem like you could just pull people out of history and make them go away forever.
The Void Century, I feel like, does imply that your belief that it is erased in the way of the toys is true. Like, even if it's not by devil fruit powers, it means fully gone. gone.
It would suggest that Emu asks for someone to be pulled right out. I'm really enjoying Dancing's idea that it's an emu war. You know the emus win in that war, though.
Yeah, Australia couldn't defeat them. They were too powerful.
I don't want it to be aliens. Too racist for me.
Sorry, you wanna run that one more again?
Well, because when Western people who are melanin deprived think about all the amazing things that have been made in the past, they're unable to believe that people who are melanin rich are capable of that. So they say aliens.
Hey, it's not just being melanin rich. They also don't believe that the very white Celts could build Stonehenge.
Yeah, but there was also great hatred for the Celts.
Yeah, so it's not just about melanin. It's all sorts of racism.
Okay, I will allow that. I'm just looking this up because...
All right, everybody, count us in.
Hey there, YouTube. It's me, Mama Drock. You know me from such places as the Drock Show, where I drock out about drocking. So today, you should like this. Not liking this is bad for your health. It'll give you such things as rickets, tuberculosis. You will get things caught in between your teeth you can't get out. You may have snot permanently drip out of your nose and have to marry St. Charles. I mean that one. And liking this will give you such great things as full happiness and extra chocolate bars, and all of your food will be the same size it was before shrinkflation, and suddenly you will be filled with magic, and everyone will see you as being a super version of yourself. But let's talk about subscribing. You should subscribe. You can hear dings that let you know there's a new show. Wonderful happiness, my smile. You don't get to see it, but you can feel it. Its hockey is rich, it's deep, it impacts your life. It does such things as get you a raise at your work without even asking for it. You will find the pile of gold at the end of the rainbow, and suddenly you will know how to do complicated math without a calculator. So all I have to say is, have you thought about becoming a Patreon? If you become a Patreon, and this is not hyperbole, though I wish it was, you can listen to me read chapters out loud while riding in the back of an RV around my town. Much fun for all. You can hear me do such things as smash my head into the side. Ask whether or not you can still hear me. Though you can, I just can't hear you. And never forget those incredible leg cramps when I forget to turn off my mic and leave the chair. All I'm saying is, if you like this, greatness. If you don't like this, less greatness. So subscribe today, become a Patreon, press the like, and your life will be a better place, full of rainbows, bunnies, kittens, sparkles, and happinesses. Unicorns will deliver your mail, and it is possible that Gryffindor isn't just a house, it's also your next pet.
What?
Okay.
Okay.
Let me do the other. Oh, so if you want to send us letters or a card or whatever and be like, hello, this is me. Tell us about your life and be a cool person. Then this is the P.O. box. It's on the screen right now because our editors are amazing. Oh my God, editors, that P.O. box is incredible. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for the animation at the end. Have a good day. May the 4th be with you. Okay, so some of the things that I wanted to talk about before we moved on are as follows. What is the war against the celestial dragons? Like, it seems as if the war against the celestial dragons is happening in kind of a covert way. Like, are we gonna fight? Are we gonna Marineford fight? Or are we gonna set up bombs? Are we coming out?
You're gonna have to wait and see, because it definitely feels like, are they capable of militarily taking on that much? That seems like a no.
Yeah. And can I just say that it doesn't feel like the shithole dragons have any kind of actual impressive things about them. Like, St. Charles doesn't feel like he has haki.
Oh no, that guy for sure don't.
He just feels like a blob who's being protected by those.
So you do think that the elders are strong and they're celestial dragons, so they got that.
Yeah, so the people who take care of them have power. The elders have power. Obviously, this emu bastard has power, the dark and crazy ass bastard thing. But I'm wondering, like, if you can blow up the houses underground in the dragon area and just kill those sons of a bitches from underneath like you're the mole chick, then are we going to have any actual combat? Or is it just going to be killing?
I think you're gonna have to wait and see. Are we sure emu is a he? Not at all.
No, not even a little bit.
I just default that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna they, them. And if we haven't seen their face up until this day, that's fascinating. Could you imagine if it was Luffy's mom?
I mean, probably not, right? That feels wild. Because this feels like a figure that people don't know exists.
Yeah, I would agree. That would be very, very upsetting. Have we seen Emu fight? Are we going to see Emu fight? I feel like Emu is going to be one of the scariest rat bastards in the history of the world, and that the hockey level on this piece of crap is going to be like astronomical. But I feel like there has to be some sort of ritual. If you don't have ritualism with a character like Emu, like where is the fear? I need the fear. And the fear comes in ritual. So I'm very much hoping for some of that.
Okay, I know it's a joke because of Pokemon saying, what if Emu is Clefairy? But the biggest evidence that Emu would be a woman is that Princess Kaguya is a big thing in basically all manga ever. And Princess Kaguya, by the title Princess, people might not be surprised to learn, is a woman. And I could absolutely see, as is the case with many manga, Emu representing Princess Kaguya.
Oh, are we about to get to see the are we about to get to see the magic circles in use? Oh my god. Yes, queen. I think I want to see the magic circles in use.
It's probably top 5 time.
Yeah, I would agree.
Who's our least favorite character?
Yeah, St. Charlos.
There we go. Done. Before you get into drip, because I know a lot of characters introduced here, I just want to remind you of something, okay? And I don't often like pitch an agenda when it comes to these. Did you see how cute Shirahoshi was in her blouse?
Shirahoshi was already making it into my top 5, but if you feel the need...
Drip is 2. You do 2 drip characters.
All right. Drippity drip drop drop. Shirahoshi is adorable, but you know she's only wearing a goddamn blouse, right?
It's a really cute blouse.
I just want to say that I have decided 100% we're going to see the magic circles used in this time. I think they're going to be used by the 5 elders to bring things in to fight against the attacks on the good gods.
We'll have to wait and see.
Leo is cute. She's cute. She also has that little weird thing hanging in front of what would be a crotchal region. And she has a really cute little like chain around her waist. But CP0 was dripping.
CP0 got some drip for sure.
You know what? It's CP0.
CP0, are you doing 2 characters or CP0 taking all the slots?
Yeah, no, CP0 and Shirahoshi. Wimpy Hoshi was adorable. I will allow that.
All right. Shirahoshi and CP0 are the drip winners. Who's your favorite minor character?
The Queen of Sorbet.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? No. You know who's my favorite minor character in this one? Those goddamn nesting doll princesses who I can't stop thinking about how they work. Because they're in that shape and appear to not have legs, I'm telling you that they're changing the way that I think about this world. And now I'm like, can you have that type of humanoid? What else can you have if you can have them?
All right.
They're really messing up my head about what you can and cannot have in this world.
All right.
Top 5.
Let's do it.
As brought to you by Mamadrock and Luffy.
We can't do a Luffy tier list of Luffy because, like, Luffy ain't here. Luffy ain't in it. Luffy's in one chapter and he's just misreading his bounty.
Luffy is a no tier.
Yeah, he's not present.
Okay, number 4, Shirahoshi.
Hell yeah.
She pulls things together. Her dreams come true. She gets attempted kidnapped. She comes out of it and still says while she's in chains on the ground with St. Charlo, and being touched, I might say, by St. Charlos is a fate worse than death. And she handles it. And while she's down there on the ground, she still says to her King Father, you can't lead through anger. Come on. That's just pure delight. Shirahoshi still reminded her father to have character and strength and not go into hate. She was the one who got to see her dreams created by being in the sun and talked about it when it meant. She had friends. She stayed as herself there and refused to listen to her father and not talk about Luffy the pirate in the middle of this thing. Like, she decided to go, which for her, given that she's lived in a goddamn room her entire life up until like 2 months ago, is pretty incredible. And she gets the strength to go. No. If anything, I want to move Shirahoshi up. Okay. Number 2?
Yep.
Is Sabo.
Alrighty.
No, he's not.
Who's number 2 then? Where is Sabo? What's happening?
It's not a big deal. I just need to move Sabo a little bit. My number 1 is Emu.
Just because of how much it adds to the story for this fucker to exist.
Emu's existence is number 1. And Emu is also like legitimately bringing the vibe of crazy and darkness. Like that is just, it has to be 1. My number 3 is Garp because Garp was amazing in this arc.
Shit like this is why Garp is my number 4.
So I have no 5 and 2 is questionable. This is really difficult between the people that I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
because I kind of want to move Sabo, but at the same time, Sabo is like strong throughout the plot. You know what? I don't give a shit. I'm keeping Sabo where he is. Sabo is 2. So we've got 1 is Emu, obviously. 2 is Sabo. Yeah, makes sense. 3 is Garp all the way. 4 is Shirahoshi, and I stand by Wimpy Hoshi getting that spot. So it's just 5. And I wanted to give it to somebody else who was in it a lot more. And I thought that I was just using my own tinted sunglasses, but it's Shanks.
All right, fair. Look, I would have put Mjosgard on there, but I think weirdly enough, for 6 chapters, there's a lot of characters you could argue being on this list.
It is kind of weird because I was also leaning Mjosgard, but dude, you know I love me some red-haired Shanks.
Okay, but you calling him Mjosgard makes me imagine Millhouse as Mjosgard.
That's what I was doing. Thank you for picking that up, man.
Don Quixote Millsgard. We need to talk about what we're reading next. Here's the sad fact, okay? You don't want to read 50 chapter sections. And because this is 150 chapters about, for us to get it done in like 3 or 4 episodes would require that. Here's the other issue. Wano is split into acts, and we are not going to follow the acts because Act 1 is only 15 chapters and Act 2 is like 30.
Wouldn't that be good?
The issue is, if we only do 15 in the first one, we would probably need to end up doing 6 parts. It's 15, 30, and 104.
15, 30, and 104. So the 104 one can be broken down into 3 parts.
If that's how you want to do it, we can do that. It'll still be 5 parts. I think that works.
I like to do it by arc. I hate not knowing the full thing.
End of Act 1, I think, works.
Yes.
Okay. 924, 924. Okay. Guys, I think we're done. Y'all, I'm excited. I'm so thrilled about Wano. This is my favorite arc. There's a part in the late middle of Wano that I think kind of lags a bit and gets a bit slow, but the highs are so high that this can't not be my favorite. I love this arc. It's beautiful.
I'm already enamored. I'm only allowed to read to what?
17 chapters because we're doing the intermission. We're reading to 925. Perfect.
Okay.
The person who did the first list made a new one, and this is very good.
Who is this?
This is Bombdigga. Oh, and the longest section you're reading is only 37 chapters.
Oh, I love that. Thank you very much, Bombdigga. Wait a minute. I do want it written in predictions that we're using the magic circles coming up.
Okay. Everybody?
Yeah.
We love having you. This is amazing. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to start Wano. We're finally here. We are at, as of right now, my favorite arc.
I'm so excited.
Probably won't be pretty soon once the current one wraps up. Thank you for watching. You guys make this worthwhile. And until next time, it's been lovely talking to you.
Squish on, squishies.
Bum, 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 bum.
Of course mermaids poop, but then they hide it with this. I love that you put sword things through them all.
Yeah, I just cut them up the same way Emu did. Oh yeah, the Vivi portrait adds a lot. This is great. I love Emu as like just a silhouette figure here, blocking out big shape by negative space. Big fan of this.
That is nice. I love that. Oh, I like the snow. Good job on the snow. Luffy's mom has got it going on.
Hell yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.